Welcome to Balancing the Scales, the Economic Justice Report. This is your host, Vic Bernsdorf, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about these two topics. Privatization of a pension system, or Chile's equivalent of our Social Security system, and we're also going to be talking about problems of privatizing public roads in America. Before I get to those two topics, I'll talk a little bit about a comment from a viewer. Scott and Loda asked me, Vic, why do you think so many poor white people in America vote Republican or keep voting Republican? And that's a really good question, and I think it has to do with this. A couple different things. First of all, it's who you surround yourself with, right? Your neighbors. A lot of places in the United States, it's important to feel that you're part of a tribe, right? Or part of a larger family. That's number one. So you want to keep voting however your neighbors are voting. Then that has to do with your family, right? If your father and mother vote Republican, well, chances are you're going to probably vote Republican too. And then also has to do if you're a racist or not, right? What I mean by that is the Republican Party is a party of the rich, party of corporate America and the 1% and millionaires and billionaires, and pretty much no one else. But all these millionaires and billionaires, right, they don't constitute a lot of votes. So many years ago, the Republican Party had to figure out how are we going to get people to vote for us. We don't want to give them any money. We don't want to make their lives any better economically so they can pay their bills and have a dignified retirement and so forth. No, that's not who we are. That's who the Democrats are. So they had to figure out, what should we do? They came up with a solution. Legitimize hatred. Allow them to hate. Come up with some story about how migrants and minorities and Muslims are coming into this country and they're taking away their jobs and they're a threat to them, right? And guess what? That logic worked. It worked beautifully. And a lot of people, a lot of poor white people, especially in the southern states, they bought it.
For countless voters, the healthcare debate has gone beyond partisan squabbling. Plain and simple, it's a matter of life and death.
Obamacare has been a complete and total catastrophe.
As it turns out, Obamacare's not exactly been a disaster. No one argues it's perfect, but since Obamacare kicked in, some 440,000 Kentuckians suddenly found themselves able to be insured. Most of that because Obamacare broadened coverage for America's poor. And in that group, just for example, breast cancer screenings went up 64%. Hepatitis C screenings more than tripled. Diabetes screenings rose more than 700%. So if there's a lesson in what happened next, the collapse of Trump's plan, it's that Obamacare, in fact, has plenty of supporters, even here in fiercely Republican Kentucky. This is the impoverished Southeast, coal country, hit hard by the downturn in that industry. It's one of the poorest regions in America and one of its least healthy. It's where last November, people voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump.
So, Scott, to answer your question, all I can say is this. Trump and the Republican Party have been able to tap into some hidden needs of these poor Caucasian individuals in Kentucky and elsewhere in the South that appeal to them. You didn't see the whole clip, but there was a section of it where a woman going to a Trump rally had a t-shirt that says "Deplorable Lives Matter." Next to her was a crowd of people said "Build that wall, build that wall." You know, so, and those things are more important than their health and the health of their children, right? And when they get Obamacare, they enjoy it, and then they want to go beg to the Republican Party, please don't take it away from us, but they don't want to vote for Democrats in the first place to make sure they get it and keep it, right? Okay, anyway, let's move on now to our second economic justice story in the news about privatization of a social security system in Chile, which could affect us big time if it ever comes to the U.S. Let's watch a clip and come back and talk about it.
Nothing infuriates Chileans of all walks of life more than their compulsory private retirement system, or AFP. It was created under Chile's military dictatorship and was supposed to guarantee pensions equivalent to 70% of one's last paycheck. Instead, 10 to 20% is the average. With good reason, the AFPs are the #1 target of millions of protesters' wrath. Chile's pension funds make massive profits, which are not redistributed to the contributors, even as pensions drop. In Chile, the suicide rate for elderly people has soared, and one of the prime reasons is because they no longer have enough money with which to survive.
Okay, folks, what you just saw was a clip of Chileans protesting in central Santiago, the capital of Chile, about the new private pension system there. Well, not new, introduced in 1981. Before I get to that story, let me give you my sources for today for this segment: protectpensions.org and from NewYorkTimes.com. So what's going on here? Let's give you an overview. Like I said, about 500,000 people, Chileans, turned out in central Santiago to complain that a lot of their own people, a lot of retirees in Chile are being left destitute by the current pension system and committing suicide as a result. And they're out complaining. They don't like it. Okay? Now, rather than finance pensions through a system to which workers, employers, and the government all contributed to, millions of Chileans began to pay 10% of their salaries to private investment accounts, kind of like 401ks here, back in 1981. Okay, so let's take an in-depth look about what that buy them. It's changing from a publicly run pension system to a privately run pension system. Okay, the average monthly retirement Chilean benefit is about $400, our dollars, U.S. dollars. But a lot of workers there only have between $160 and $260 net per month to live. Can't have a dignified life on that. $260 a month, huh? Chilean workers receive about 35% of their pre-retirement earnings after contributing 10% of their salary throughout their whole working lives. Okay, you got 35% of their previous salary to live on in retirement. Okay, private accounts soaked up about a third of Chilean retirees' original investment. Okay? So this new private pension system, which they chose, they had a choice. Stay in the old system or go in the new system, new private system, back in 1981. This new private system is paying a lot less in benefits than the old system, which was not profit-oriented, which was a publicly run pension system. Very little overhead, okay, or no profit, okay? The employees are also forced to pay huge commissions. The current Chilean employees have to pay a lot of commissions into the pension funds. A World Bank study calculated that a quarter to a third of all contributions paid by Chileans who retired in 2000 went to just pay fees. Okay. Now, personal story from the New York Times, and I'll be quoting. I quote now: Deberto Siez is a 66-year-old laboratory technician here who plans, because of a recent heart attack, to retire this year. He earns under $950 a month. His pension fund has told him that his nearly 24 years of contributions will finance a 20-year annuity. Okay, so 24 years of him contributing to the pension will finance 20 more years in retirement, paying $315 net a month to him. Okay? Article continues. He says, colleagues and friends who stayed in the old pension system, people who work right alongside me, are retiring with pensions of $700 a month, good until they die. Okay? I have a current salary that allows me to live with dignity. And all of a sudden, I'm going to be plunged into poverty? All because I believed the mistake? Or either made the mistake of believing the promises they told me back in 1981? End of quote. Okay, what's the takeaway from this segment, folks? Well, it's pretty simple. This is a bad omen if we ever go to that system, okay? The Chilean private pension system is an example that proves that any private pension system will almost certainly provide less economic security for retirees than any public government-run retirement system, like the ones we have in the United States, like they have in Europe, and in Japan. Okay? Okay, let's move on. Okay, folks, this next story is a continuation of the privatization of public goods and services. In this next segment, we'll be talking about privatization of toll roads. Let's watch a clip with Cenk Uygur and come back and talk about it.
For a long time in America, the great majority of the national highway system and the interstate highway system was toll-free. Donald Trump would like to end that. So he's saying, well, private corporations are going to put money in, and then they're going to want to maximize profit. So not only will they get their money back, but they'll get some money on top of that. So at the end of the day, who's going to pay for the roads? You are. Now look, you put taxes in, we build them at a reasonable rate, and it helps everyone. It helps you to get from point A to point B. It helps businesses. When Eisenhower helped to build interstate highways, it helped business boom. And we did that through taxes, and it still made sense, and it still created a bigger, larger, more successful economy. It lifted all boats. Now we're not going to do that. We're going to privatize all the roads, and then you are going to be paying tolls forever.
Okay, folks, this segment is all about the privatization of public assets and services, and sometimes, or most of the time, how they don't work out as planned. You just saw Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks talk about privatization of public roads, turning them into toll roads. I'll get to that in a minute. But let me just talk about privatization in general. Let me give you an overview of what's going on here. You know, we've heard for decades, or we've been subjected to constant propaganda for decades. The government is inefficient, bureaucratic, expensive, can't do anything right? We're told the answer is to always privatize or outsource government functions to private businesses, and they will do things more efficiently, and everyone will come out ahead, and everybody will be happy, right? So as a result, we've had decades of privatization of government functions. How has that been working for us? Let's take an in-depth look now at the privatization effort. Folks, private companies are not always better than the public sector. Okay, here's an example. In 2007, Colorado leased its Northwest Highway to a Portuguese-Brazilian company for 99 years. Okay, the company raised tolls 50%, and taxpayers have to pay the company if too many carpoolers use the diamond lanes, cars that have a lot of people in it, right? The contract includes a non-compete clause that requires payments to the foreign company if certain roads or facilities are built in the area that would compete with the toll road. Okay? In other words, if traffic gets really bad, Colorado is not allowed to do anything to solve that problem for its citizens, like putting in mass transit or congestion relief arteries, whatever. Citizens are forced to use that highway and pay that toll for 99 years. Okay? Let me give you a personal story. My life was not immune to privatization problem. I remember when I was like 11 years old, my parents would shuttle us kids, myself and my sister, to Freehold, New Jersey, where we lived in Bedford Hills, New York. And it was about, 2.5 hour drive, and we hit toll road after toll road after toll road. And back then, 1970, I think it cost us like $12 for a round trip. That's a lot of money back then. It's like $30 in today's dollars. And it really was, we had to save up for it for a long time, for a simple trip. So, and I remember I was like, 10 years old or so. Every 20 miles, stop and pay a toll, stop and pay a toll, stop and pay a toll. That got old, man. And why? Okay? We know why. Because it's ka-ching, 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 right? Well, many years later, in fact, before I retired, I was involved in the municipal privatization effort. I'll keep the names out. But let me just tell you that things did not go well. Okay? Right from the start, the private company was looking to save money, save money, save money. Why? So they can have fatter profits at the back end of the deal. And right away, they looked at saving money doing maintenance, saving money by maybe cutting positions. And when this effort was deprivatized, in other words, it went back to public sector control, the city that was involved in this effort they end up spending millions of dollars putting this facility back to where it was before this private entity came in. Okay, so what's the takeaway, I guess, from privatization in general? Right? The takeaway is that the winners in privatization agreements are the companies who signed the agreements with the public sector, with the cities, counties, whatever. The losers are always the taxpayers, who get fleeced, and they usually end up with worse services than they had before the takeover. Okay, well, that's the show for today, folks. Thanks for listening. Next week I'll be covering the importance of critical thinking, especially during this election season, and also I'll be covering poverty in Alabama. Thanks for watching. Always remember, you deserve the government you vote for. Have a great day.